Hello and welcome to the Ruby and Roses channel. My name is Addie and I am the creator behind Ruby and Roses yarn and everything to do with the yarn, the podcast, all of that fun stuff. If this is your first time tuning into my podcast, then welcome. This is a bit out of my norm, so I've never done a Q&A video before, so I'm super excited to get into it. I have collected questions from all of you that were on my last episode and just questions that you have for me in general. I thought it'd be really fun to answer some of them. So just to give you a quick overview of what to expect in this video, I'm going to be answering questions like what inspires me on a daily basis as a creator, where I get my inspiration for collections, like how I met my boyfriend, what my average day looks like, business questions, things like that. So if you are interested in hearing my answers, then be sure to stick around. I will also be announcing the giveaway winner that I drew for in my last episode. So if you have commented in my last episode video, then stick around because I will be announcing that winner and I'm excited about that. So first up, I wanted to just mention that if there was repeat questions, I will not be getting to those. So just a general overview of a few of the questions that you asked that were just phrased a little differently. I just ended up combining all of them, so my answer is going to be roughly the same, just for time's sake. Since there's going to be so many questions, I'm going to try to give really compact answers so I can get to all of your questions in a reasonable time and not have this episode or this video just go for a long time. So I will do my best. So first of all, you guys ask, I'm going to be reading off my computer that I have down here because that is how I'm going to be answering your questions. So the first question is, does Superwash DK yarn make a sturdy sock without the nylon in it? My favorite thing about spring is watching the earth come to life, new colors, birds nesting, warm sunshine. I agree. That's a great thing about spring. So a lot of people, ever since I mentioned on my podcast, I'm going to be knitting DK weight socks. I haven't yet, the yarn's still here actually, but I'm going to be. Stay tuned for my next podcast to hear more. But so a lot of people were messaging me saying, you're going to knit socks with no nylon in it. Are you sure that's okay? I don't know of anyone else that does that, etc., etc. So my DK weight yarn is 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, and it's a 4-ply. So all of that combined is pretty much the same as my fingering weight yarn. It literally is identical besides the yardage. So with that being said, I feel confident to knit a pair of socks because it still has nylon in it. And I know a lot of indie dyers choose to use 100% superwash merino with a DK weight. And I just decided to go a different route because I know a lot of you do use that for socks. And I feel like nylon also just adds a bit of sturdiness to sweater projects, to anything we want. I don't know, if I'm knitting something that's DK weight, it's normally going to be sweater, more outerwear, unless it's maybe a shawl or something. But I just think a little bit of extra sturdiness is good to have. Do you see yourself starting a knitting group there? So good to see your face again. So I actually am a part of a knitting group, crafting group. It's really fun. My employee Megan, she belonged to a craft group with a lot of the employees at Joann's, which she works there also. And it was really fun. I've been going there for a while now, and it's cool because they all do some sort of craft. Some of them crochet, some of them knit, some of them quilt. A lot of them are sewists, if that's the word. They like to quilt, and it's really fun. We go there and hang out, and that is, we do that about once a week. So it's really fun. Can you talk about your shawls in the background, which is right here? I love all the colors, especially the stripe one. You are such a genius with color. I always know I don't have to worry about buying from your collections because they always go together. Loved seeing your studio tour. It looks amazing. Great job. Thank you so much, first of all. It was very sweet of you to say. I have been knitting shawls for a long time, and I started a lot of these a few years ago, so I'm not going to remember all the names, but I will give you a general tour of my shawl wall that I've been curating for a while now. I also wanted to read a second question that sort of ties into this conversation. So I was planning to ask you the same question as Stephanie. What are your shawls you have hanging up? Exactly how do you have them hanging up? I never know how to store mine. Your colors are beautiful. I really love your podcast. You are so inspiring. Thanks again. You guys are so sweet. So I will go ahead and show you how I have them hung up, sort of what I did. And I originally found this idea on Instagram. I'm not 100% sure where I found it because I've been hanging my shawls up for a while now, but I have learned some valuable tips and tricks that I will be passing on to you guys, because if you have been wanting to hang up your shawls, there's definitely some do's and don'ts. So without further ado, I will go ahead and show you what I remember of these shawls, if I can try to pull out from the recesses of my brain what colorways I used, from what dyers, and what patterns, what designers, all of that stuff. I will try my best. So first up, we have this one, which is the Plumatees shawl. It was knit in my Hermione colorway, which is this beautiful pink, and then a one of a kind. And then back here we have Birds of a Feather. And then this is my Fascination shawl. And the yarn in this one was all dyed by me, so that's why I don't, I had one lace weight that I picked up on a vacation somewhere. I found some like mohair in my stash, and then I just dyed the rest. So this is before I was dyeing for the business. And then this is my Fascination shawl. It will be linked down below if you want to purchase this pattern, because it's in my Ravelry store. And then this one is my, actually, I don't remember which pattern this is, but I know it's designed by the Crazy Sock Lady, and it's knit in the Dolores colorway from Primrose Yarn. So I don't know if they still sell yarn or not, but I'll go ahead and take these down. I wasn't originally, because they're really hard to put back together, but I'll just go ahead and show you guys. So over here we have the, this is by Knitting Expact Designs, so Mina Phillips. And again, I don't remember the pattern name, but I'm just going to throw out like the designers' names, and then if you just look through their pattern selection, I'm sure you can hopefully find it. But this was knit with, again, Primrose yarn. I was so obsessed with her when, like, before I started dyeing yarn. I have quite a few of her colorways. Like, all of these are Primrose yarn. And then this is a mini set from a Homespun House that I thought paired with it beautifully. Very electrifying color, colorful shawl. And then this one is again by, well actually this one is by Ray Bot Designs, who is junk yarn. And this is knit, this was yarn I purchased for Rhinebeck. This is my, this was a Legacy Fiber Arts colorway, and then this was gifted to me by Tristan of Dragon Horde Yarn. This is one of her colorways. Again, I don't remember the names, but that was who dyed both of them. And the reason this is in the back is because this is definitely not my colors anymore. I just don't really love this shawl. So I might wear it at some point, but well, what's probably gonna happen is I plan to give this away to someone at some point, but I haven't found the right person yet. So that'll probably be what ends up happening to this guy. But it was a super fun pattern. And then over here we have another Fascination shawl. This is knit with my Unbreakable Vow colorway and Golden Hour. This kit is currently in the shop. And just like FYI, I did not knit this one. This is actually made by a sample knitter. And yeah, I just wanted to originally show you all how these kits looked up that were in the shop. And then this is Once Upon a Time my Easter shawl. This is a pattern, this is Fading Point, I think, by Joey Locatelli. Again, these are all yarns dyed by me. And again, it's in the back because these are not really my colors anymore. I have progressed so much as a dyer over the years, and yeah, this one just isn't really me anymore. Here we have another Birds of a Feather that I just used a regular old lace weight with, that I purchased again on a vacation, and then this one was one dyed by me. This is a shawl that was knit by a sample knitter of mine in my Violet colorway and New Beginnings. So New Beginnings is actually available in the shop, which is this beautiful green colorway with lots of fun speckles in it. This is the Color Crave shawl by Tammy Gore, and I used a Homespun House in the, I don't remember the name of this colorway. I want to say it's Cozy or Comfy Sofa? Something like that. Something to do with the sofa and something like Cozy or Comfy, I'm pretty sure. And that was the main colorway. And then the mini set I dyed up to coordinate with it. And then I used some of my fresh linen mohair to pair along with it. So this is a super cozy shawl. I really love this one. Down here I have my Exploration Station by Stephen West. I used pretty much all of my hand-dyed yarn for this guy. So yeah, it's a huge knit and it was a blast. I cannot recommend this pattern by Stephen West more. It's just so good. And the last one I'm going to be showing you guys is this beautiful shawl. This is a Blooming Brioche shawl by Brandy Velton, and she is the dyer behind Long Dog Yarn, and this is all made with a Homespun House yarns. Again, I think this is Hoarfrost. I'm not sure what this one is since it was so long ago, and then I think this one is Ditsy, I want to say Ditsy and Hoarfrost. But anyways, I really love this shawl. It's super wintry and just, oh, so cozy. So anyways, I hope you liked that little tour of my shawl wall. And how I hang them up is pretty straightforward. So there's one thing that I will definitely press upon you guys, because when I first did this, I just had a wall of hooks and I would just place them on, and the shawls would become indented on the hooks, and it would create almost a hole, not quite a hole, but a major indent in your shawl. That's just undesirable. And I tried to block it out. A lot of them I couldn't even block out because it was that just pushed through. So it would be if your fabric was just completely pushed up, it was just a permanent just divot up. So the reason how you can avoid that is pretty simple. I just got a long strip of fabric and wrapped it around and around the hook. So you can just buy fabric at Joann's or something that is spandex fabric, something that is really stretchy that you can wrap around quite a lot of times, and then to where it just creates a circular fabric piece over your hook. And then I just make that really tight so that it doesn't roll around on the hook, where it's just really sturdy, and then I will put my shawl on top of that. So there is a little bit of gravity action right there that pulls the shawl down, that can stretch out your stitches. However, I personally don't experience it to be that bad. And the really cool thing is that they're shawls that they're normally just around your neck, so you can kind of tuck in a bit of the stretched out portion if it's really gonna bug you. And then my Fascination shawl I'll generally wear around my shoulders if it's a chilly evening or something. So those are there are a few that I really love to wear the old-fashioned way around your shoulders. And even then, the little indivot just kind of sits right below your neck, or whatever you want to call that. I'm calling it an indivot, but I don't really know what the correct term would be. But whatever that is, it just kind of fits right into the top of your neck. So it could look like a design feature to the average person, but if that's something that will not bug you at all, then I could not recommend having a shawl wall more. It's just such a amazing way to showcase your art, things you spend hours and hours creating. And for me, this is my bedroom where I'm recording right now, and so I get to look at this wall every morning when I wake up, and it's just another thing that keeps me inspired on a day-to-day basis. And for me, that little bit of extra fiddling with my shawl to have it look right when I'm wearing it is 100% worth it. So yeah, it's just my 2 cents. Okay, next question is, for the Q&A, what do you wash your yarn with? It always smells so good. So I spent quite a few months researching what wool wash I currently use, and just searching wool washes in general, because in my experience, it's just such an important part of the process. Because for one, from the dyer's perspective, if you don't wash your yarn right, then you could have a lot of dye leakage and stuff on the consumer end, which is completely horrible, and I would never want that to happen. So that was why I spent a lot of my time researching wool washes, and because of that, I don't really discuss what wool washes I use anymore, just because I get asked this so often, because that's just another thing that sets my yarn apart, and something that is close to my heart as a creator. So I just don't feel really comfortable sharing that information. But and I'm so sorry about that, but I hope you understand. I just it's something that I've really researched hard, and that's just a part of the business that it's kind of, I can't really talk about, but I feel like a lot of people just know that smell. So it's really cool. I personally adore the smell. I wash all of my hand knits in it. It's just it's a really cool wool wash, and it's really useful for setting that dye in the washing process and keeping that pH level right where I want it. And then next question It's so good to see you back dyeing yarn again. Those blues are calling my name. I'm such a slow knitter. I'm still working on last year's advent. Do you think you will ever participate in fiber festivals or trunk shows? So that's a very good question. I actually have a collaboration coming up with a knitting store in Chicago this December, so stay tuned for that. It is like a yarn store I love to visit whenever I'm in Chicago. So I've visited it like I think twice now because I've just recently gone to Chicago for the first time. But it's really an adorable store, and I really love their brand and yeah, what they stand for, what yarns they carry, all of that stuff. So I am really excited to be doing a collab with her, so stay tuned for more info on that because it's not quite time to release it, but I'll give you a little teaser. And one of you commented something that I thought was really cool, because in this giveaway post I said like, ask me a question if you have one, and if not, then tell me your favorite thing about spring. And one of you said, I love like the smell of spring in the air. That is my fave. Love your podcast. So thank you so much. I wanted to mention that I have a colorway inspired by that very feeling that's in the shop. So just a small, like, I don't know, plug for it, just because I know a lot of you like said things along these lines, and that is something that is a personal favorite of mine for the spring months, is the feeling of that just like fresh spring air. It's just unlike anything else. So because of that, like, I created a colorway called Breath of Fresh Air that launched in last spring collection, and I just threw in a bunch of sock sets in the shop. So I just dyed up that colorway. I have, I think, about 30 sets, so not that much, but I will link a listing down below if you're looking for a new sock project this spring and want something that is gonna like have that feel to it. So anyways, just wanted to mention that because when I came across that comment, I just wanted to share that info with you. So what has been the most challenging thing about moving out on your own? What is one area you are still learning the ropes and one area you feel like you're thriving? So an example, planning meals and grocery shopping were so hard for me when I moved out, but I did really well managing my time. So that's a really cool question. Like you, I definitely have a hard time with planning my meals and like meal prep and stuff, because my least favorite thing to do in this world is cook. Like, that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but any like household chores, I just really don't like cooking. So I've kind of worked out a thing like on how I can get better at that. So I normally will grocery shop once every 2 weeks and just buy like everything I need. So I recently, like over the past, I think 3 weeks, I've been doing really good in that, which shocker. I like will have a salad for lunch with like chicken on it, just so I can like have some protein, eat really healthy. So I've been doing a salad, and then lots of yogurt. I do a little bit of like my meal at supper is a bit more like classic, I guess. Like I might have like a starch, I'll have meat, I'll have a vegetable, something like that. And a huge thing that really helped me get like just to cook is on Sundays is normally my cooking day for the week. So that's when I do meal prep and all of that stuff. So Devin, my boyfriend, will like come over and he helps me cook because he's a fantastic cook. And when I say help, he will do the cooking and I will like chop up everything I need for my salad, because, and like, or boil broccoli or something like that, because that's the kind of cooking I can deal with. And yeah, chopping things for a salad is just not fun. And so having someone there to help and just, I don't know, it makes it go so much quicker. So that's been a huge help, and I have not really struggled in that area. But to be honest, at the beginning it was very difficult because I tend to definitely get in work mode, and then I don't take time for eating or drinking, which is not good. And thank God I have just come out of that and moving on to other things. But now it's going to be like a new challenge. I would say it's also a challenge because I live about 15 minutes away from work, and so a lot of like home and work kind of coincide and like are very much intertwined, because I will have some parts of my job I have to do at home for various reasons, and some parts of my job have to be at work. So driving back and forth, I try to like schedule that out really well to where I'm not, going back and forth all the time and wasting, time and gas. But I would say managing time is a bit of a struggle in certain certain areas as well. But I am just like working like new schedules and stuff, and I'm always trying things that are different. I'm always like saying like in my schedule, like, oh, what if I moved this over here and saved a time this day and then did another activity the other day and stuff like that, which has really helped. So all in all, I feel like I'm getting a bit of the hang of it, and just moving out on your own is a whole new ball game. Like, it's just very different from just living all by yourself, being responsible for so much more things, and just trying to fit in that time when otherwise it was, I could spend that time on other things. So all in all, just, I feel like I'm learning how to do all of that now. It's only been what, like 3-4 months, but, which is kind of a long time. Anyways, and I know I just used like your examples, but that's like pretty much what I would have said if you didn't give any examples. So maybe we're just really similar. Okay, next question. I love spring. My birthday is in March, and my favorite flowers are daffodils, so I win all around. I love all your work. Your passion and hard work are inspirational. A question for the giveaway: what weight yarn do you prefer to knit with? Thank you so much. When you guys say I'm inspirational, it really just is so sweet. I actually love to knit with fingering weight. If you haven't been able to tell, fingering weight is my favorite. It's just my favorite weight yarn, and if I had to do, like, it just kind of depends on the project. If I'm going for like a shawl, normally like I love fingering and lace. I love DK. I mean, I love so much of all of these different things, and it's almost just what I'm in the mood for. If I want a faster, more bulky knit, or if I want something that is just filled with like intricate stitch pattern, fascination shawl, or something that like, I don't know, so if I want a dense fabric, like my blanket I'm working on now is is DK weight, sorry. The traveler's blanket is going to be DK weight, and it's 2 strands of fingering held together. So if ever I'm shopping for yarn or saving yarn for myself from a collection launch, I will normally always save fingering weight, unless I have a specific project in mind that calls for another weight. But fingering weight is just so versatile. If you want a DK weight, you just hold 2 strands together, and I think that creates a really cool marled look. And you know, they're great for socks, for shawls, for lightweight sweaters that are like transitional sweaters. So yeah, fingering weight is just my all-around favorite. Okay, next question. Hi Addie, so lovely to have you back. A question for your Q&A. Your yarns are such beautiful, vibrant colors. Where do most of your ideas come from, and what inspires you when you are planning a new collection? Also, it's unusual to see someone so young dyeing yarn. How did you first become so interested, and what did your family think? My favorite thing about spring is being able to sit outside in my garden with a nice cup of tea and my knitting surrounded by birdsong and flowers. Happy Easter. So that is really good questions. A lot of my ideas for collections come from things that personally inspire me, just whether it's like something I see like daily that I just really love, whether it's a show like my Harry Potter collection. My fall collection is just something that that just popped into my head because of something that I love to do, and a whole collection just formed around it. And that is a very unusual thing for me, because that's the first collection where the theme popped into my head, the colorway names popped into my head before the actual colors themselves. Normally it's reversed. So it just depends, and I feel like it just is based on whatever idea I have. But if I'm going to be doing like one-of-a-kind yarns, or something that I'm creating like the colorways for a new collection, if I know my theme, if I know all of that stuff, and I want colors that are similar, if I want colors that I know will fit into this theme, then I actually go about it in a really, I feel like, unique way. I don't look up things inspired by that collection and base my colors off of that. I tried that for a while, and it just didn't really work for me, because I would go through and I'd be like, boy, I really want to add this other color to it, but it's just not in the photo. And then going through and picking out and just finding a photo that has perfect color distribution, color hues, all of that stuff that I have been that I really want to have in something based on that theme is just really hard to find. So, and I know a lot of indie dyers do it, and more power to you, but for me, I'm just that's just not how I roll. So I actually will, when I'm trying to create colors, I have a few books that I love to go through. They are color theory books all about color, what could be better, and that's kind of where I get my training. That's my R&D time. So yeah, I will go ahead and just go through all of those colors and pick out colors that I feel like fit that theme. That's why I hope my themes are cohesive, because I do try to pick out colors. So like I'll have a book of a ton of different color palettes. I will pick which ones I want to use, what colors I think fit the theme, and then I will go from that and use all those colors for the collection. So it's kind of how I do that. So when I first started dyeing yarn, my family, I kind of had to talk my parents into letting me use a lot of my savings to invest in the company and like start dyeing yarn, because I was already dyeing yarn for personal use for a while, and that was pretty much just like how I would buy that yarn, was just basically like fun money, things like just odd jobs I would do to earn money. And I always like sold things, like my whole growing up I was always just very entrepreneurial, so I always like was selling things basically pretty much since I was like 9, so just always doing stuff like that. But I eventually like kind of presented my business plan and after that they were really like supportive and were like, okay, you can do this, but they didn't really think you could tell they're like, okay, you want to try to make money dyeing yarn, like, okay. But I'm like, I know I can do this, and I just really wanted to try it. So all in all, it obviously worked, so I have you to thank for that. And I definitely don't blame it. If my kid came up to me like wanting to do something like this without knowing the niche very well, I feel like I might be skeptical too. And so yeah, I think it all worked out, and they're really supportive now, obviously, and I really love to hear all about the business and new things I'm working on. I'm so excited to get my first advent this year. I'd love to know, what is your favorite base that you have in shop? So my favorite base changes daily. It is basically like whatever colorway I feel like looks beautiful on a certain base and things like that. I would say my favorite, if I'm just gonna go for a yarn, like what base I'm gonna choose, is definitely between two. It's either my plump rose base or my soft rose base. Those two I have the most in my stash because they're just extremely versatile. If I'm in the mood for something little sparkly and something that's a bit different than my normal, I will go for my rose gold base. So yeah, again, I'm just horrible at picking favorites, you guys. That's the one thing I'm not very good at. My favorite part about spring is seeing all the trees and plants turning all the colors of green. If you should pick a favorite green, which green says spring to you? So I would say like the green I'm wearing is one of my favorites, just like almost a chartreusey green. I love like really bright, vivid greens for spring if I had to choose. That would be, I also really love the dark, moody ones like this, like my Unbreakable Vow colorway is like perfect. And a green I don't like is if it's too moss green, if it's like grungy, that's not a thing in colors really, I don't know, but like the green, I think you know what I'm talking about, like the green that's got a lot of like brown undertones to it, just like really yellow heavy with my friend Sage would know what that word is, but I don't. So it's just like that specific type of dark brown, green, gray mix that I'm just not a fan of. So other than that, I really love all greens. I'd say like brighter, saturated, and then like really dark. So, and then how old were you when you learned to knit? I was actually 10 years old when I learned, and I taught myself from a YouTube video. Loved watching your podcast again. I am curious if you plan on doing more collections that reference pop culture. For example, you did the Harry Potter collection. So I do plan to do a few more pop culture collections. I have one that I have planned for not this year, but next year. And I feel like, or possibly my Christmas, I'm not 100% sure. Like it might be my Christmas collection, but I definitely have that one in mind. But to be honest, that is something that's very hard for me to come up with, is pop culture referenced collections. So if you have any ideas for that, feel free to leave them in the comments, but that's definitely one area where I feel like it's a bit hard, and it's more of like, it's hard to explain, but things that I love in the like pop culture area might not be things that my demographic loves in the fiber arts community. So just finding that like medium like of things I know will be really popular and things that I don't know might just be something I love that I just enjoy like almost by myself. So it's more of just or like with close friends, something like that, to where I'm not creating a whole few months, like it would be like dedicating a few months of my life to this theme. For me, I have to love something, like love it, for me to have it in a collection that I will be spending a few months of my time creating colorways based off that collection, like really just analyzing it so much, like analyzing that theme, whatever it is. So like Harry Potter, I have been into for so long, that was just a no-brainer. And so I just don't have a lot of things in my life that I feel like I'm that into, and a few that, like, for instance, I would love to do an NF collection because he's my favorite artist, but like, I don't know if, like, a lot of you would probably not love the NF collection as much as I would, for instance. So hopefully that can kind of help you understand a bit where my point of view on that. And that's not to say I'm not going to have future pop culture references after what's going to be my Christmas collection or next year, but I'm sure I plan to do one a year and just really contemplate and just be very intentional about that one pop culture reference collection is every year. You are so inspiring at such a young age. How long have you been knitting, and when did you start dyeing yarn? Thank you so much. I started dyeing yarn when I was like 15, 16, that area. That's like for business, for all of you, and then I started dyeing yarn a bit before that. I love flowers blooming in the spring. I would love to see an emerald green or deep teal colorway. What is your favorite thing about the town you moved to? So an emerald green or like teal colorway would be like my Deluminator. If you wanted like, this is like, definitely has some emerald green in it. That's my Unbreakable Vow colorway. I have quite a few green colorways in the shop, or I will be in my next few collections. And my favorite thing about the town I moved to is probably just, again, you guys are making me choose favorites. And I don't like it. I can't do favorites. But like, it's really exciting being in just an environment where I feel like the town, there's always just something to do here. And there's just a lot happening, and it's really fun. I love looking out, and I also love the view from my apartment. I feel like that's something I enjoy on a regular basis because there's just so much happening like down below me, and coming from a view looking out into a field, just now getting to see all of this life, all these people. It's funny, whenever I am in the kitchen and I hear a horn or siren or something drive, like mostly horns. I don't really have a lot of sirens on that street, but like I'll have a lot of people like honking their horns on my street, and every time I hear it, I just smile so big because I'm like, I just really love it because it reminds me of like where I am and how much action and stuff's around me. So I feel like that's probably one thing I just truly love. What is your favorite colorway you have ever dyed and favorite project you have ever made? So my favorite colorway like to dye, it used to be my Bundle Up colorway, and I just ended up dyeing so much of it that it sort of lost its like fun factor. But a new colorway that I really enjoyed dyeing all of my Rarities collection, to be honest, like my Merriment in particular. I just really loved how those speckles blended together, and just really seeing that come to life in the dye pans was super fun. And then my favorite project is probably my No Frills sweater. I really enjoyed that knit. It was super fun and just really relaxing project, and it fits beautifully, and it's a really cozy sweater that I feel like will be timeless and just a perfect project, like a perfect addition to your wardrobe. And then shawl wise, I feel like I really loved my Fascination shawl. It was just a really fun knit that just was constantly changing and constantly evolving for me. So yeah. Can your mittens be made into fingerless gloves? P.S. Your Rarity collection looks so pretty. Have a wonderful Easter. As you can see, these are kind of old, but I do think my mittens could be made into fingerless mitts. I would just recommend trying it on as you go, and then once you hit like the point on your hand that you would like to stop, just cast off and just ignore the rest of the decreases, and I think you would be good to go. So you might have to take a bit of liberty with the pattern, but if you're cool with that, then yeah, I think it would be totally doable. Hi, this is my first time I've ever seen any of your videos and watched this one through to the end. I live in the UK, so I hope I qualify. You do. The question is, what were the influences you had which got you into knitting and the other fiber arts? I've been dreaming of dyeing yarn, and your yarn colors are very inspiring. I hope to be able to try it myself someday. I hope you do. It's so fun. I love dyeing yarn, and yeah, like my Creato The creatives I follow that have sort of like are heroes for me, they definitely have like evolved over the years, and I feel like it's just another really fun thing about this like community, and how there's always so many new fiber artists out there. So one that definitely inspired me to start, which I feel like is where you're going with this question, was Molly of a Homespun House. I kind of go into a lot more of like my beginning of the journey in like episode 2, and I almost don't want to send you back there because it's so bad, which I know is cliche to say, but it's there and it gives the story, so there you go. But I definitely go into a bit more of like my knitting history and things like that if you're curious to watch. But I say like an artist and yarn dyer that really inspires me now, that I just adore her stories, I adore what she puts out, and someone that is just really inspiring to me is Sorella. Her yarn, Ashley of Sorella, I should say. I end up just calling her Sorella because it almost sounds like a name to me, and it's just like, well, Sorella, like, I don't know, it's just really cool. So Ashley of Sorella is, I feel like, just the yarn dyer. I've never seen a indie dyer get as big as her, like her business wise, and just I love what she makes. I love her collections and what inspires those and things like that. So I would say Sorella is definitely one that inspires me, as well as Molly of a Homespun House. And like there's so many others, like Woolberry is incredible, and how she like just how she curates her Instagram feed is inspirational. Like crazy cool. And then Explorer Knits is another fun one. And I know Explorer Knits and Woolberry are not really my color palettes. They're definitely more on the earth tone side, but I really admire their brands. Addie, I'm so excited that you will be casting on a pair of socks. I have 2 questions for you. Do you think you might join in on summer sock camp with Kay, Crazy Sock Lady, this summer? And 2, did you finish up winding that yarn yet? Haha. I did wind that yarn, and funny story about that yarn. I wound up all that yarn, and I have made progress on my blanket. I'm 1.5 colors away, so spoiler for my next podcast episode of finishing that blanket. But I also cast on a new project, and I ended up winding that yarn like an hour before I left on my Milwaukee trip. So I was a bit frantic, and I didn't even pack yet. So I was crazy winding up all this yarn, and I'm like, I gotta leave soon, I'm gonna be late. And I hate to be late to things, but inevitably I am most of the time, because I always end up tackling things that I shouldn't have done in that time limit. But I ended up getting everything done, packing everything, and like I was only, I think, 10 minutes late. So yeah, I ended up winding all that yarn. I have not thought about participating in the Crazy Sock Lady knit along. It looks so fun, and thanks for telling me about it, because I might see if like I qualify, since I know very little about it. So I'll see if I qualify and see if like I think I can finish these socks in that timeline and stuff like that. But I might look into it. I think it would be really fun. I love watching her stories every year about like all the fun of summer sock camp. So happy you're back. Do you think you will eventually open your studio for in-store shopping? So I am currently not zoned for retail in the space that I'm in. I could be, I just don't really see a need for that, since I'm going to be dyeing yarn, and I don't really want to hire someone to man like what I would need to have an employee to man a store. So I'm just gonna stick to online shopping at the moment, but I will be having an open house possibly once a month. So if you're in the Lafayette, Indiana community, then please let me know when I do my Instagram call out for like an open house kind of a thing, where we can like hang out and knit. And if you feel compelled to shop a bit, then you'd be more than welcome to. So I will be doing like those kind of hangout things maybe once a month or once every 2 months. So yeah, that is going to be something I am looking into. How long have you been dyeing yarn? How did you first start dyeing yarn? How has your process in dyeing evolved? So one thing I don't think I've ever mentioned that was one like contributing factor to me dyeing yarn was I used to watch the Yarn Hoarder podcast when she was still a podcaster, and I really enjoyed her podcast. And one time she talked about dye solubility in her hand-dyed yarn, and how some dyers she purchased from, she wouldn't purchase from again because the dyes in their yarn just ran, and the colors in her yarn would just completely just disappear in the water almost, because it was just such a high level of just dye, her colorways just were not dye fast. So that really intrigued me for some reason, probably because I'm always obsessed with chemistry things. I'm kind of just, if someone's talking about it, I always want to learn kind of as much as I can. And she had an article from a old spin-off issue that she said, I loved reading this. It was literally written by a chemist. And I was just fascinated. I was like, I have to get my hands on this article. So I feel like at the time I was sort of young and didn't really think about going to the internet first. I, for some reason, went to my public library and they had the latest issue of Spin-Off, which is pretty cool, but they didn't have one from like 2 years ago, obviously. So I ended up looking on eBay, I think, and I found one. And I eventually read through the whole thing, and I still have the article because it's just really cool for me, since that was one of the first things I like looked into. But and just like one of the first things that got me really hooked on the dyeing science behind hand-dyed yarn. So yeah, it really just talked a lot about pH, what pH levels are best for your washing process, dyeing process. Now that I say that, I think I still have that volume, but I wouldn't know where it would be. I might have left that at home in my Missouri home. I'm not sure, but so I'm really sorry that I can't like give you the article, but anyways, it was just really fascinating talking all about that. And it even had like a chemistry diagram of what your dye molecules look like when they react with the yarn molecules, reacted with your mordant, which is like citric acid or vinegar, and just like that whole process. It was just really fascinating. So that was another thing that got me into dyeing yarn, and my dye process has definitely evolved over the years. I am constantly changing things, constantly revising, constantly editing, seeing how I can make my dye process better or more efficient. So it's just really cool to see it evolve, and who knows where I'll end up. How long does it take from the moment you start to dye yarn until it's ready for us to buy? So that is a good question. It just depends from like a collection. If it's a ready to ship colorway, like when in my old days when I would used to like do custom orders or something, or pre-orders, and you would buy the yarn and then I would go ahead and dye it up after I got the order in, that sort of a thing, then I could have that yarn processed within 3 days, because my yarn cooks for about 10 hours and then I wash it and it dries for 24 to 48 hours. And normally it's like in between that, obviously, and then I just have like, you know, just a small amount of time to wind it and label it and package it up. So I could have it done in 3 days. However, what I'm doing now is collection launches, to where I will prep and dye yarn for like a month, and it's based on the certain theme, the certain something that I will go ahead and then just wind all of the yarn as it's dyed and then just launch it in the shop on one big crazy day. So then it'll be like 30 days before from the time like I dye my yarn to the time you purchase it, if it was one of the first, or it might be one of the last. So it just depends. So that is all the questions I'm going to be answering in this video today. I decided to break this video up into 2 parts. So I will have this Q&A that's more business questions, and then the next video I will be putting out is going to be all of the Q&A questions that are more personal. So if you want to stick around and listen to those answers and see a little bit more about my life, then stay tuned for that video. But before I end this video, I want to announce the giveaway winner, because that is probably why you all have been sticking around this long. But the giveaway winner is Victoria Feldman. So if that is you, I will have that on the screen. If that is you, then get in contact with me with your mailing address and I will ship this out to you ASAP. My email is addie@rubyandrosesyarn.com. And what you won, like I showed in my last video, is a Sojourner sock set. This colorway is also available in the shop, but it's one of my favorites, which is why I decided to put this in the giveaway. And you will also be receiving a Harry Potter project bag. This thing is so big, it's very spacious, incredibly well made, and I cannot wait to ship this parcel out to you. Thank you for everyone who entered the giveaway and asked such incredible questions. I had a blast answering them, and I'm actually gonna, after I end this video, answer all of the rest, so that'll be fun, and that video is going to be coming out next week. So if you want to be notified when this launches on my page, or just any future videos, then please like and subscribe down below. It will really not only keep you in the loop, but it'll also help me as a creator with this business and help me gain exposure on YouTube and just grow this knitting community. So thank you so much for all of your support and for asking such great questions. I hope you enjoyed my answers. So until next time, bye.